welcome. Four Horsemen of Sales, Season 1, Episode 2.
Dose.
Hulet.
Yes. That all means two.
Man.
Okay.
Guys, second episode. How you guys feeling today?
I'm feeling great.
Yeah?
I'm feeling great.
Clyde?
Yeah, feeling good.
Coffee ready to go.
Always good. Always ready.
This coffee got me
Who's
hyped.
ready?
Coffee.
Coffee's for
Coffee.
closers.
Good coffee.
Speaking
what
of
you need.
coffee, our sponsor today is Black Lion Coffee.
There it
Get
is.
blacklionusa.com.
There it
Pure
is.
Ethiopian coffee. Amazing, guys. Amazing. Black Lion. Thank you for the swag. Everybody's all swagged out.
Tell them where the
Man,
proceeds
Man,
go to.
blacklionusa.com. It is pure Ethiopian coffee. Every bag of coffee helps support the women farmers of Ethiopia. So while you're drinking this delicious coffee, it's helping out. It's women supported, and again, they only buy from women farmers in Ethiopia. So it's a great cause. Thank you for Black Lion Coffee. Cheers to our sponsors for
Cheers.
today.
Let's get it started.
Cheers.
Let's get it started, guys.
Fine.
All right. So our in-house quote of the day comes from Malcolm, and Malcolm is the king of
Mr. Quotes.
quotes.
Mr. Q. Mr.
Mr.
Q.
Q.
If you
That's
go on
right.
his Instagram page, that's all it is.
I mean,
That's
it's quotes. It almost sets the tone for the day.
Mm.
You know,
and that's good. It's kind of like how you transition.
yeah,
the
yeah,
day.
I like that.
What's
I
the
like
quote?
Hey,
Give
so-
us the quote.
Give us
Yeah,
the quote
so-
for this episode. Go.
success,
Mm.
right? When you define it, success is going from failure to failure
Mm-hmm.
without no
Lose-
loss of enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm. I like that one.
By who?
Yo, you gonna let him just do the quote?
By
who?
who?
No.
Sorry.
Yanni's trying to take credit. Yanni's trying to take credit of the
Yeah.
quote.
I love the
Yanni's like, I made
mean,
that one.
I love it.
Coach K. Let him finish.
Coach
Say
K
it one
is
more
the strong
time.
Let
Say
the-
it one
let
more
the
time.
man
Say-
shine.
Let me say it one more time.
Say it one more time.
Say it.
Say it one more
Come
time.
on.
Success is
Mm.
going from failure to failure
Absolutely.
without no loss of enthusiasm.
No loss.
Mm.
Enthusiasm.
Who said
No,
that?
hard to do.
Unknown.
We're still figuring
I
that
think
out.
I know. Okay, I don't know. Maybe I do. But I love. That's one of my favorite quotes.
Look
That's
it
why
up.
I got excited.
Got excited.
Yeah.
huh?
There we
It's all
go.
good, man. It's
There
all
it
good.
is.
So, kind
That's
of moving
our
into
topic.
our topic, yeah. So we're gonna be breaking down again in the first episode. We talked about what our mantra is. Again, transforming individual to be resilient, motivated, and skilled. And we want to kind of break that down each episode. And so our first, obviously, our first word is resilience. So that's what we want to kind of talk about today. The definition, if you look it up, the definition is the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties, toughness.
Yep.
And second is, I love this, the ability of a substance or object to spring back into shape. You know, elasticity. So that is the definition of resilience as defined in the dictionary, and we look it up. But again, it's about our perspective as well. So what does resilience mean to each of you?
Claudia, what does it mean?
Oh man, started right off the
Yeah,
gate.
he was
ATL,
ready.
He was
He
ready
was
to give it to
ready.
me.
By the way, I love the knee tattoo, dude.
Whoa. You got a
Thank you,
Wow.
thank you for giving me a little time to answer that.
Wow.
You got a tattoo.
He's
Wow.
so committed, man.
Wow.
He's
very committed.
I'm
very
committed to
Everybody
Black
get
Lion.
tattoos.
Here's my tat, right? No shirt, just tat.
Oh, man.
No, but it's a really good question. So basically, for me, I feel like it's holding yourself to a higher standard. At the end of the day, when you're holding yourself accountable and things aren't going right, you only have your own self. It's a matter of like eliminating those excuses or self-pity that sometimes we all have on each other, no matter what the circumstance may be.
Right.
But resilience is something where you're able to overcome obstacles that aren't dealt the same way that maybe somebody else may have, or different scenarios. At the end of the day, you find a way to win, and
Yeah.
that's what, to me, what resilience means. So,
Yeah.
It's pretty powerful.
hey GM.
Yeah, for me, resilience, I learned it,
You kind of. Hey.
what- hey, no, I'm serious.
We know
Wow.
you're serious. We know you're serious. Go ahead.
No, for real. Like, resilience for me, it's about waking up every single day, right? Knowing what your why is and going after it no matter what. Because, hey, every single one of us are battling different, like, obstacles. We have different problems and concerns and issues, and we can always we have one or two options, right? We can either, fuss about the day and hey, woe was me mentality, or we can, if you will, just say, screw it all, and I'm gonna continue to focus on my why, because that's what's driving me. So hey, to be resilient is to not allow anything outside of your why distract you, right?
Outside noise.
Outside noise, right? So anything outside of that. And hey, when you talk about sales, it's extremely necessary for that because it's easy to be distracted. And I think being able to have that resilient mindset is truly what's gonna separate you from average to great, right? Because you can easily be distracted and you can easily, kind of focus on the crowd, more traveled, if you will, right? And so on and so forth. So in this business, and we're gonna have, obviously so many samples and stories and so on and so forth as to how we overcame resilience and what it meant to us and so on and so forth. But for me, it's really comes down to that. It's being able to truly understand that. I mean, and I'm pretty sure every single one of us have our own, but what's it to you, Ma?
Yeah, I mean, it really is a mentality that you develop. But that quote that I had mentioned, it's not losing enthusiasm, right? So the resilience thing, it's easy to tell, if somebody's happy, they're motivated, and the only time you can find that happiness or motivation is when things are going right, then it's not saying much, right? It's almost, it's not fabricated, right? But, you want a true character, right? Character comes from, right, when things are not going the way you planned it, and you don't lose that enthusiasm, right? And you've got to have that why for you to develop that. But it's a mentality, and if you can learn to not lose the enthusiasm, and that enthusiasm doesn't mean things are not going to happen, right? It's how you respond, right? So there's a response thing, and so you don't want to be at effect to everything that's going on in your life. You want to be intentional, proactive, and the resilience is what develops, right? So I would say to me it's not losing that enthusiasm day to day, regardless of what's going on, right?
Yeah. I think, to be honest, resilience is like if I'm gonna look at it and judge and weigh each thing, resilience is like the most important thing you have to have. Like, it's literally, if you look at anybody that's been successful, you're not gonna find somebody that's successful and not been resilient.
Right.
Like, anybody that's done things in this world has been resilient. Like they faced so much toughness or obstacles in front of them, and their ability to persist and be tough is what got them to the level there. And that's so big. I think ultimately, before you start anything, or the first thing you have to have is a resilient mind that I don't care what happens, like I'm gonna get this shit done. Right. Like I'm literally like nothing is gonna stop me. Right. And like for me is, and I think about this word, somebody's compartmentalize. Like being able to like look at your life and like, something might, you may have this shit going bad and this, but like keeping everything together and really sectioning things off and focusing on it and just getting up each day. And I love that quote because it's without a doubt you're going to face obstacles. And so how are you going to, like I said, with the why as well, how are you going to keep on going? And that's that ability, that's really, to me, in terms of what it means to me, it's the difference between you succeeding and you not succeeding.
For sure. Yeah,
like sure. It's ultimately that's what it comes down to. Yeah. So like, I mean, it's all about a story of resilience, whether it be in in your life. Give us an example. Let's talk about examples because it's really, we can talk about the definitions of what this is resilience and whatnot, but like giving this is what it's about. Giving life experiences and giving our viewers and our listeners actual stories of how we went through that, whether we are in a situation where we overcame it and how we were resilient or the lack of. And I'll speak to that as well. But like, tell about story in your life that involved being resilient, and just kind of lay that out there and just be real.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I'll just throw something out there with resilience. I mean, of course, we all have different backgrounds, but one of the big interview questions that I like to ask, and I found that a lot of people like to gain insight on resilience, is when you ask somebody, there's no wrong answer to this. It's the famous one. I love it because it puts everybody can answer this question. Mm-hmm. And it's basically, are you the type of person that loves to win or hates to lose? Mm-hmm. Okay? And when you ask them that kind of question and you ask them to answer it and tell their why behind it, that's the insight you gain, the resilience you start hearing. No matter what, they say, I love to win. There's no right answer. But if they're not able to justify that and communicate that, then that's when you start seeing that character that you were bringing on board.
Yep.
Do they have what it takes to be tough-minded and continuing?
Sure.
And so, to piggyback off of all that, I'll give you the interview story. But even when I was in retail and moving my way up, there's going to be a lot of people telling you, like, man, there's no way you could do this.
Yep.
When your goals are like, hey, I want to be a general manager in 3 years. This is how I'm going to lay it out. You have a plan, and there's going to be so many days where people are going to laugh at whatever you say, or if they ask your opinion on what's your ultimate goal,
Sure.
and you tell them at such a young start,
Yeah.
the people can't perceive or understand what you're trying to do. But at the end of the day, you got to be resilient and you got to stick to your plan and keep growing. So that's my personal story on showing that and how you can rise and do that. But go ahead, Mo.
I mean, I think everyone probably can relate to, hey, maybe it was personal, or maybe it was in your personal matters, or maybe it was in your professional matters. But hey, we're all out there trying to accomplish something, right? But for me, it was more on the business side, because you guys, you see the year-end awards, right? But specifically as a sales rep and as a manager, right? If you're in a performance-based business, it means if you don't perform, right, there's only so long you don't perform before what?
Get axed up.
Axed, right? And so when you work for,
you don't get paid.
hey, that's the other thing. So it's as a sales rep, and my first year when I came from Tennessee and moved, when I went into this industry, not my first year with the company, but my second year when I came to DC, it was a different animal, right? Meaning the clientele here was a little different than what they were in the state of Tennessee. But hey, I remember a time where, like, I had 1 month to either make it or not, right? Which we call, you were on the final, right?
The pressure,
But
put the pressure on you.
I guess
pressure's on.
Some people are not, this might be their first show. When I tell them a little bit in terms of what type of industry you mean.
I mean, so in the vacation ownership industry, right, where it's a high level of sales, right? It's a 1 point close. So you've got
close them that day.
The skill set that it takes to become successful in there, not just the these 3 characteristics. You have these 3 characteristics, you'll be successful.
Well, let me ask you this. I've always wanted to answer this, and I think this will help to show people like how tough it is. Do you know, like, kind of the percentage of, like, if they don't buy at the table, who, like, in terms of who else buy? Well, the rate of buying once they leave.
Well, so in sales, there's a statistic that before somebody decides to make a purchase, it takes anywhere between a minimum of 5 to 12 contacts.
Touches.
Yes, touches.
Right?
Yep.
That 80% of all sales happen between 5 to 12 contacts.
Correct.
Right? That means, like, first time, second time, third time, fourth time, only that's 2%. Only 2%, right? So you got to understand, in our sell, you've got one opportunity to make the right impression, and take a stranger, move them through the sales process, and hey, thankfully we sell a product that sells itself, right? It's vacations, it's travel. But I say all that to say, without the resilience, right, the skill set comes along, as time goes on, but the resilience is where it starts. Right. So with me, I never, even when I was on final that last month, right, that 1 month, does the doubt come? Yes. But what do you have to do? You got to eliminate the doubt, right? Yeah. And you've got to believe that everything you've worked for is going to end up working out versus, hey, it's just it's just done. And the only way you get there is if you keep working, right? If you don't lose, right, that level of enthusiasm. And I was known for one thing, right? The attitude, right? Big on attitude. Nobody knew what type of month I was having.
Which is what you can control.
with 100% control.
Attitude, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
100% controllable. So, you know, it was a professional thing for me, but man, did it teach you a lot about, you know, hey, who you are, right? And the whole resilience thing is, it just weeds out the quitters from the non-quitters.
For sure.
It's easy to quit, right? So that's a little bit of what resilience means to me. It's at the end of the day, don't quit, right? Don't quit. So what about you, Mr.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'll go. And, you know, we kind of talked about, yeah, no, you pushed it off to me.
Oh no,
No, I
AGM
was ready.
doesn't want to answer.
No, I know
was
you were ready,
ready.
but you know, I just wanted to make sure that you had your
AGM
opportunity.
was like, yeah.
Good, man.
You're gonna need more time.
He's controlling all
No,
of it right now.
no, resilience, like I said, I think is very important, and there's a lot of stories in my life, but also like what we talked about, man. Today has obviously been a tough day. Yesterday and today with the passing of Kobe and everybody else and so he was the epitome of resilience, like to me, like we talked about this the 97 finals, game 5 with Utah. You know, the 3 air balls. Like anytime I think Kobe, like that's the one thing. Like and I don't think people understand this. Like you're not playing. First of all, you're not playing in like a pickup. This is the whole world is watching. Like the whole world is watching, and I can see where somebody. And we've played ball. We know athletics, and and when you think of resilience, sometimes you can in athletics you see it a lot. But like to go through that, to shoot one air ball, and then have the balls right to shoot again, right, air ball again, and then another time to do it. And this is not a regular season game. This is the finals.
Yep.
Finals, and to go from there and to become to transform himself to become one of the greatest players and whatnot. That to me, like that's just like an epitome of what resilient means to me. Because ultimately, that's just like in that definition, it's the ability to obsess a substance or object to spring back into shape, to go through that and then come back to that, and which is big. But in terms of me personally as well, and I think I talked about it with mental toughness at the beginning, and one of the reasons why it's so big for me is I think I had the lack of resilience in college. When I was playing college ball, I had a coach that was very negative, and again, there's a lot of things that, and I won't just put it to that to why I didn't necessarily succeed the way I wanted to, but I wasn't able to overcome that, and I wasn't able to compartmentalize that and just focus on me, on what I can control. Because ultimately it's going to come down to what you can control.
Absolutely.
And for me, when I look at that life, I wasn't resilient when it came to that. And that's big for me because it was really like it was a moment where, when you're going through that, like ball was life. Like that's all I knew. That's all I knew, and that's all I cared about. So like that was like a devastating moment for me in a sense of not being able to, or being in an environment where I felt like, and again, I felt like I didn't have control of my situation. That's because I wasn't able to compartmentalize and focus on me and be resilient and come back when I was going through just the negative aspects with coach and the arguments and whatnot, just being able to just come back and spring back and just focus on mine. So that's big for me. And obviously in real estate and what we do as well, resilience, that was big when I started. That was rejection after rejection, being able to continue to show up.
When you when you first started out, how many phone calls and how many months before that first sell, man?
Oh man, it was it took me 7 months to make my first sell, but I used to make cold calls in the morning and literally, and that's why I love that quote as well, is because there was times where I needed to see that every single day, because the ability to go from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm, and that was huge, man. Sure. And every single day, literally, like I said, and making calls in the morning and asking people if they wanted to sell their house, and people hanging up, cursing, sitting down in appointments, getting a no. That was tough, man, and it was it was definitely, when you're going through that, you're questioning, your grit is being built, and it's the more that you stay in it, you're just getting stronger and stronger and stronger, and so that's what really I think speaks to me and what it means to me. Yeah. You know what I mean? So. Yeah.
I mean, for me, there's so many different times when resilience was in question, but the one that really like sticks out to me is I think it was a turning point in my career. Short of the NGO field and all that other stuff. Yeah, I mean those were great
NGO, Clyde.
NGO. What does that stand for?
Non-governments.
Organization. There you go.
Organizations.
Right?
I learned that from AGM.
There you go. So short of those and short of like the multiple point sales, all that stuff, the one that really stuck out on me is in the vacation ownership side of it. When I went an entire, I mean, you know, here's the thing about sales, right? When it's the first day of the month, the enthusiasm itself is there, right? Because if you had a bad month or a good month before, hey, it's done. It's eliminated. It's a restart, right? So naturally, it's the first day of the month, and the excitement, the enthusiasm is there, and there's nothing that needs to be fabricated. It's just natural. So, you know, you get this mindset where you're just like, all right, I'm going to have a great month. You know, all of us say this. We're going to have a phenomenal month. And then the first tour is handed to you, or the first client comes in front of you. And so once that comes in front of you, you're thinking to yourself, all right, this is it. I'm going to give it everything I got. So to carry that enthusiasm, not on the first client that you see, but all the way to the end of the month, hey, to me, that represented what resilience means. So to tell you more of a direct story is I've struggled with a certain type of clientele that I just couldn't, for the life of me, I felt like I couldn't sell. Right? I was just like, I can't sell these type of people, right? Period. End of story. So if I have client A, client B, client C, let's say, right? I felt like I just couldn't sell this client C, right?
The type of people.
The type of people, right? So these people, for some reason, this month alone, they were just the clients that I was seeing. It's not like I can
Over and over.
Yeah, over.
That always happens. Murphy's
Oh
Law.
my goodness, dude! Like over and over and over again. So I remember this like it was yesterday. It was like it was actually December 14th. You know, we're almost halfway in the month, and I go to my my boss, and I was like, yo, listen, something's got to change, right? Because I can't keep seeing these type of, if you will, people, because I'm at zero. I got this going on, I got bills coming, yada, yada, yada. And I remember this conversation like it was yesterday. He looked me dead in the eyes and said, listen, imagine if you were in a position where you couldn't quit your job, right? You were not going to get fired, right? And your livelihood counted on you being successful. How are you going to treat that next client? Even if it's the exact same client that you saw in the first 14 days, right? And that was a turning point, because I was like, well, I can't leave, right? I can't quit. I'm not gonna get fired, and the only way that I was gonna bring income in is if I was selling these client C types, if you will. And hey, that was a defining moment for me, because guess what happened on day 15? I saw the exact same clients, right? And sure enough, day 15, sold it. I mean, I think you remember this. We were like side by side. And then from the rest of the month, I probably saw, out of the last 15 days, I'd say at least half of it was the exact same clienteles. Because, it's very seasonal in a sense. You get to see a certain type of clienteles for every season. And sure enough, that month, I ended up, not only just being fruitful the last month, but that was the one month that I remember being the representative of the month meant the most to me. Right, because you go from 0 on the board on day 15 to where you outperformed everybody else that was there, right? So to me, that was like, okay, this is what resilience means. Like you just find a way. Like, excuse my French, but fuck it all. You're just gonna find a way. Like you're just gonna find it, because you can't quit. You're not gonna get fired, and your livelihood depends on it. So to me, that's, to this day. This happened, what, 4 or 5 years ago?
4 or 5 years, yeah.
Right? So
when the manager said that, what had to change? What changed?
My mindset.
Your
right?
perception.
Your perception of it.
So when you guys are you're listening to our takeaways from it, if I'm sitting and listening to this, and I'm you got to look at a time where you've experienced, maybe you're experiencing it now, or a time you have experienced it, and it's what happens is there's a mental shift, and sometimes it's just changing the narrative. You change the narrative to your situation, then you're gonna respond differently, right? It's just like, hey, if you ask yourself an empowering question, your mind naturally is gonna look for empowering answers. If you ask yourself limiting questions, your mind's gonna find that limiting answer. So that goes a lot to what we're talking about, is, again, the mentality of why resilience is at the forefront of what we're trying to do.
Right.
And I think it starts from the beginning, you know? Like, whatever you start, if you have the mindset, and again, there's going to be certain, like, aspects where you have to, like, certain...
You gotta pivot.
Yeah, you got to pivot in certain... So, but that mindset is, like it doesn't matter what comes. Like, it doesn't matter what comes in my way. I'm gonna show up each day. I'm gonna sell. Like, and I think mental shift is important. I think it goes hand in hand with the resilience and that mental, the perception and what you feed your mind is important. You know what I mean? So, yeah. No, I guess the obvious question or the obvious stuff from that is what's the reward of resilience? Like, you know, if you're resilient, and what's the reward?
I mean, there's so many different. I mean, at the end of the day, it's performance. Obviously,
Yeah.
The result that you're going for is going to be magnified, and it's definitely going to show, and it's going to be something you can build on as a building block for the rest of your next challenges that you receive in front of you. And once you do that, that's why they tell you at a young age, like, if you join something, finish it through.
Yep.
Yeah.
For sure.
At the end, I learned that from Mr. Platt back in the day. I was going to quit play. I wasn't going to do it because I was in the middle of doing basketball and soccer.
Yeah.
And I was a lead role.
You were good, right?
And I was going to quit. Yeah.
What role were you
Academy
playing?
Award winner.
Academy
Hold up, you
Awards.
used to be in...
Tell us.
Well,
What play
Mr.
was
Platt,
Yeah.
Drama Club. It was
I know.
Drama
What play? The play that was really
It
good.
was actually a serious play because I was.
Yeah.
Serious
It was Josh.
Bang, bang, what?
Bang Bang You're Dead.
Bang Bang
And
You're
I was
Dead.
Josh, and the main character that.
Bro, your
actually,
sister
it
was
school
the counter.
shooting.
Oh,
School shooting.
Man,
It was
I'm
about
trying to get
school
him to
shootings.
recall.
Okay.
Yeah, it was about school shootings. It was very, very touching still, and today it's still happening. And how, basically, that's an important part of communicating with us when we're younger, at a younger age, and the impact. But anyways,
What made you want to quit?
because I had so many things on my plate, and Mr. Platt, like, I wasn't, I was going away for games, and I was missing the practice time, the rehearsals.
Right.
And you got to have that chemistry with the people you're with, the relationships. It's basically sales at the end. You got to have the relationships. You got to know the lines. You got to know different things. And I felt like I wasn't prepared. It was literally like 2 weeks before. And I'm like, Mr. Platt, I can't do this.
Daddy's gonna miss.
Like, I'm sorry. Like, please, I don't. And I,
Can you guys just imagine Mr. Platt's face
yeah,
right now?
Mr. Platt looked at me
no
with
emotion.
with no emotion,
Yeah,
nothing.
yeah.
He said, Claudio, figure it out.
Figure it out.
And he looked at me. He goes, "Figure it out. You're gonna do this." He
Right.
said, like, and then he put some thoughts in my head, like, "Hey, if you need to stay up at night and review your lines,
Do it.
stay up at night and
Absolutely.
review your lines. If you need to do this, you need some help from somebody else, or you need me to do it with you,
Absolutely.
we'll do it.
Absolutely.
But get a plan together and find a way."
Yeah.
And after that, it just stuck out with me as a sore thumb, and I was grateful that I did it. At the end of the day, that's the result. At the end of everything with resilience, you become grateful, and when you're grateful, you're able to carry that on throughout every aspect as well.
Yeah,
For
so
sure.
So
it's you know, to that point, it's what it builds is self-confidence. So I'll say this: if you can learn to stay true to your word, guarantee you it's going to build an inner confidence, right? That's going to propel you to take on maybe more challenging tasks.
Sure. Absolutely.
It's easy to, because I mean I think that's how many times, especially this time of the year, right? You're setting goals, you're wanting to start something new, and they say half of the people that makes resolutions
yeah,
by the 15th maybe.
yeah, I don't even.
I
think
never
that-
understood why, right? Because that information is out there every year, right? And so what makes somebody not break that, right? What makes somebody go from 1 month to the second month? But the resilience thing, again, it builds an inner confidence. But holding true to your word, then there's something to be said about that.
That's like, and again, I'm not sure which if this, keep bringing this up, but I read in the book. But your mind and yourself, you're keeping tabs.
Oh,
You're keeping tabs. Like, you're keeping tabs of, like, of what you've done, and anytime you finish something through, and it doesn't matter, to be honest with you, you could have went and bombed that performance, but ultimately, I guarantee you, your mind and you will be confident in the fact that, man, I finished it, man. Like, I didn't quit. And so, like that's big for me. Like that's big what you said, because it really it's building confidence. And every time you go through something and you finish, it's building, and regardless. And to me, the reward of resilience is simply success. And success is the meaning of, you know, whether it be you produce or whatnot. To me, like the fact that you stuck with it, because again, sometimes success may not come to the time frame that you wanted.
That's true.
You know what I mean? But like it goes to that other story that you mentioned in the first episode. Maybe it was the first episode, where the guy that's hitting,
yes,
you know,
yep.
it's you're building. You never know when you're close, but like you keep digging, you're gonna be there. So in the moment you quit, you might be just one more hit away.
Yep.
And to me, the act that I always talk about, like when you start out something, it's not about, for me, don't focus on the results, focus on the process. Because you build that habit, you build that, so every single day, and the results ultimately will come. And if they're not, then you have to look at it, analyze it, say, what do I have to need to do to change something?
Yep.
You know what I mean? So, you know, the focusing on the process, but your mind, yourself, your inner self is keeping tabs. It's keeping tabs every time you quit, because then that's the perception of yourself that you're gonna have.
For sure.
And so, regardless if you perform or not perform, the fact that you stay resilient builds that confidence and builds that tab of, you know what, I'm not a quitter, I'm gonna finish something.
Yeah. What's the, I didn't mean it, and I'll let you go. What did they say? You're rewarded, you know, you're rewarded in public for what you do in private.
Amateurs practice.
Right?
Amateurs practice in public, professionals practice in private.
Yeah,
That's another one I used to.
You know, I love what you said, because I was thinking, hey, well, how do you measure that? Like, how do you measure, you know, from going failure to failure? Do you focus on, you know, what's happening at hand, or do you focus on the approach and the process? But I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah. I mean, hey, what I was getting ready to say is obviously in honor of the late Kobe Bryant, is when you think about resilience, to your point, you already brought that up. Hey, a story that was brought to mind is, you know, he did a lot of motivations, but one of the clips that I saw was he was referring to you can be the type of player that's going to say, all right, I'm going to wake up. The regular regime is I'm going to wake up around 10, 11, go in, put some hours in, put a couple hours of practice in, 2 to 3 hours. You know, let's say you do that at 12. From 12 to 2, let's say you put in practice, you go home, and then you're going to do another, right, practice maybe around let's say 6 to 8, right? So that person, in their mind, they've got the practice in. They did it. They worked hard and so on and so forth. But for him, what I got out of it with his resilience is, no, my time starts at 4 a.m., right? So I'm going to go from 4 a.m. to 6 a.m., you know, work on my craft, and then go home, be with the kids, this, that, and the other. And then, hey, I'm going to do it again at 9 to 11. And then he repeated that cycle 4 to 5 times in a day, right? So the key to that, what I got out of it, is like him doing that repeatedly, day in and day out, right? It allowed him to separate himself from all the others, because while they're getting two practices in a day, he's getting 4 or 5 practices in a day and working on that craft. So it kind of goes back to, I say all that to say that for me, it redefines who you are. Right? Every time you go through resilience, and it just you recreate yourself, right? Because before the result is there, you think that it's not necessarily, you don't think it's impossible, but you haven't seen it, so it's harder to really visualize it and say that it's accomplished. To your point, hey, even if to Claudio's story, hey, even if he would have bombed that play, at least he would have went through it and said, hey, look, I did it. I defined who I am. I went through it, right, and I became who I am today because of that. And then moving forward, he always has a story to tell himself and redefine himself again. So for me, the result for resilience is being able to redefine who you are as a person. Because hey, being resilient is unparalleled. Like you don't. It's being able to touch the untouchable. It's being able to, do the impossible or whatnot. So hey, that's what it means to me.
Can I tell Kobe's story too?
Yeah.
Please do.
I have 2, but one will be really quick. Mine with Kobe, remember, obviously I'm a big LeBron fan, but I've had many arguments over Kobe. Kobe's great, and I love Kobe. One of the biggest reasons why I love him too is because he did an interview where he was hurt, like I think his finger was banged up or his ankle, and they interviewed him and they're like, hey, are you going to play tonight's game or are you going to sit out? And he was like, hey, I know there's families out there that save money all year to watch me play. And I think it was against the Detroit Pistons or something. He's like, I'm not going to sit out just because of this.
Right.
He's like, I could play. And that's one thing that showing his character and his resilience of like, hey, I'm going to still do what I need to do to perform. That always stuck out to me big time. So no matter what, he didn't make an excuse.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then the other big one is when he was playing later on in his career and he had that Achilles, he hurt himself. And everybody thought like, oh no, what? This man went to the free throw line and shot his free throws and still walked off. And I was like, and then later on it's like,
walked off. Yeah.
he's done for the season, but he did that still on his own terms.
Right.
He did it the way he wanted, and then came back and still played after that. It was just crazy. But that's correlating back to the whole Kobe thing. I just felt like I had to.
I mean, I think it's crazy. It's
get that out there.
I think he is probably one of the best examples, if not the example, in the resilience thing.
For sure.
And it's contagious, you know. So you guys you got to control. Like if the people around you are quitters or negative, like you've got the control to control your environment. Right. They say misery loves company. But one of the ways you create separation is, hey, you know, if you're resilient, I promise you, there's other people that could be going through something, but they want to see an example that they can look up to. Right?
I got a great quote for this.
It says, love that.
The rising tide lifts all boats. Which means when you set the standard, you're basically raising the rising tide. As the tide rises, all the boats rise. So that's exactly what we said. And the story, and again, it's talk about Kobe again. The same thing happened in the Olympics. The Redeem Team. He started going at 7 o'clock every single day, and at first when he started when he first started, he was the only one. And then by training camp ended, everybody on the team did that. And it's like the rising tide lifts all boats. And you raise the standards. Ultimately, you're gonna be focused on your actions and your thoughts and whatnot. But when you do that, then it basically raises everybody else's standards. So that's important. Let's kind of finalize it and close it out with advice, recommendations. Like how does somebody stay resilient? What are the things that you could do to make sure that you're resilient, you're sticking with what you need to do or showing up every day? What's something that's worked for you, or what do you recommend? You know what I mean?
I'll start. I mean, it's not very simple, but it's hard to do, right? Because when I look back at the times that I've seen more success or failure, it was hey, what was I allowing to distract me, and what was my focus, right? And hey, it became, there is a quote out there, but
man, dropping quotes.
Well, I mean, it's crazy, but
heavy quotes today.
It's starve your distractions and feed your focus, right? And I think in a world today full of noise, all right, negative, positive, it's easy for everyone to get distracted, right? It's extremely easy. It's for you to stay focused. Everything we're talking about, like it really. I don't think it's just any one thing, right? So for you to be resilient, if you can really eliminate as many distractions as possible, right, and figure out what it is that you're trying to accomplish, and put it in front of you so it helps you stay focused. One thing I learned from Uncle G. He said the majority of population is going to write their goals down, right, once or twice in a year. Maybe the beginning of the year, maybe halfway through it. He said he's going to write his goals down over 700 times. And he said, who do you think is going to really win that? He said, the person smarter than him, right? There's a person smarter than him. There's a person, he said, taller than him. He said, with more resources, with just has it better. Like, it's so important, right, to stay in front of what you're trying to accomplish, whether it's your goals and everything else, right, in every aspect. But that's how you kind of keep focused, because it's got to be done every day.
Yep,
if it's not done every day, I mean, it's little by little, like they'll slip away, right? So that would be my my recommendation. Eliminate or starve your distractions and feed your focus.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I think for me, I wasn't gonna do that. For you.
No.
Relax,
I looked at him and he got.
You like that?
I looked at him. I was like,
I'm ready.
He's like, I'm ready.
no, let's go.
No, I got you, man. No. For me, for me, I think it's to go back to the late Kobe is this. Hey, one thing that for him that I think that I picked up was his goals were always bigger than whatever he perceived it to be, right? So for him, it wasn't about just winning championships. It was bigger than that, right? So how do I, for all those salespeople out there, for the small business owners and so on and so forth, hey, your goals need to be greater than if I was a sales rep. I don't want to just be a sales rep of the month, right? I don't want to be just a sales rep of the year. I want to be much, much bigger than that. And for me, what kept me resilient is when I focused on my why. Now, obviously, being a father of 3 kids, got a beautiful wife, the whole 9 yards. Hey, my focus has been about family and this, and what am I leaving behind for them, right? What legacy am I allowing to be represented by the AJM brand, right? So for me, it's always remembering that, and to your point, not just writing the goals down, but writing your why down every single day, right? Yeah. So that's what's going to keep, because there are going to be times when you're gonna question why you're doing what you're doing. You're gonna be like, hey, is this business gonna make it? Do I need to close shop or whatever the case may be? No, not at all, right? It's when you obviously starve your distractions and you feed your focus. How do you do that? It's daily actions. It's minute by minute. It's not just thinking about it or talking about it. It's having that. If you're visual, have a visual of it. If you need to write it down, but constantly reminding yourself as to what the why is. Your why has to be bigger than your problems, right? Because when your why is bigger than your problems or your concerns or whatever the case may be, then nothing, and I mean nothing, will get in the way of it. So,
and to piggyback off what you both said, goals, having a why. Now we got to take it another step further, and that's building that plan. Once you got to reverse engineer whatever the goal is. So you got to move backwards and build that plan. And that's one of the things, once you branch out of different sales environment, rather it's prospecting, they're like, oh, got to get the hunt or different things. You got to have a plan. Right. You can't just start go crazy. Like, you got to have a system, a plan that you want to incorporate. And that's something, with more experience you learn.
Can I ask you a question right now real quick? Yeah. Just because there's something that you shared with me several months back when you were starting in the current venture that you have right now. And most people, I think this would be helpful for if you can kind of walk them through that B2B. Everybody wants to get in front of the decision maker, right? When you talk about a plan, what was that plan that you initiated with that just was very fruitful for you?
There's different. It just depends
on
what
talking about the different points and different content.
Yeah, so there's different. Like, you got to be intentional with your touches. You said it earlier. It takes 5 to 12 touches to make an impact or get in front of somebody, and different sales being made. The fact that they answer the phone, that's a sale being made, and you have 10 seconds, 20 seconds, whatever it is to work on that. Guess what? If you don't work on your script and you weren't ready, guess what?
It's wasted.
It's wasted. And I'm not just saying a script just because, like, hey, you wrote every single word. I'm talking about like a guideline of what you want to say, what you want to accomplish, what's in it for them. You got to have an intentional intent to build a relationship with whoever you're talking to and have a real plan. Right. And that's where we can come in and help. And there's 4 different perspectives on building that. And with resilience, that's where we all come in, and we all have that, and that's why we're here today. But no, we hear no's all the time. At the end of the day, that's nothing now. That's what we want to hear. Like, we want that chatter. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I feel like if you build a plan, you have that, you reverse engineer from your goals and your why, you're going to be more successful than most. Yeah, and that's how we.
No, it's good, and then I think it fits in perfect what I'm going to say as well, because once you have a plan, I always say this: you take emotions out of the game. Like, emotions is really what breaks down people. Like, you can, a lot of people, high, low. Take emotions out of it. So you build, you have all those, and then you build a plan, reverse engineer it, and then break that down to what you have to do. Break that down as a plan of daily tasks. Right. And then the only thing you focus on.
Real quick, when you say take emotions out of it, what you're referring to is how you feel about a situation.
How you feel about,
right?
Yeah. How you feel about a situation.
Because emotions is necessary, in my opinion, when you focus on the why, right?
It can be.
Right?
What
So
I'm saying is, you're looking at it. You understand why. Again, that's your, in essence, your motivation, and I don't think so. Like, it's not emotional. It's your why is why you even live.
Correct.
You know. I'm talking about the emotions, the daily emotions of I'm waking up, I feel good, I feel great.
Right.
It's raining today.
It's
snowing.
It's your why that should take the emotion of I don't feel like doing it today.
Out of it.
Eliminate it. Yep.
So you eliminate it.
Irrelevant.
You create a plan. You create a plan of what you're gonna do. Like I said, reverse engineer and make up like a daily task of, okay, to get to where I want to be, I need to do this daily.
Exactly.
And then
Reverse engineer.
and then all you tell yourself is just do the daily tasks. Follow the plan. And there's nothing else. That's it. Ultimately, again, there might be days where you're not going to show up and be the best version of yourself, but it doesn't matter. You follow the plan.
Yep.
That day, even if you're not the best version of yourself, you're still going to do the plan.
Yep.
And so you take that emotions out of it. Emotions are overrated. And again, the why is different. I don't think that's emotional. That is basically who you're being, or what motivates you. Okay, that's not emotional. I mean, like the daily emotions of what's going on and this and that. You take that out. You follow the plan. You create the plan. You put it on a daily task sheet of the calendar, and you say, just follow the plan. That's it. That's all it becomes. There's nothing to it. You wake up, follow the plan.
Yep.
Follow the plan. And I think that's all. You know, like I said, that's what the first mantra, resilience.
The reward of all of that is, ladies and gentlemen, you become resilient.
Correct.
You know, that's the reward. Not every reward is going to be monetarily, right? And we all talked and
That's the sum of everything.
points.
Yeah.
But you know, to sum it up, Jan, yeah, you're right. You become resilient when you do that.
And that's where we come in with this whole Four Horsemen of Sales. Is we're going to be able to break down and help with whatever industry you might be in and whatever level of sales you may be in. We want to be there as somebody you guys can count on to get build a plan together. If you need that, we can do that. That's not a problem. And we're going to take you guys through a journey, and that's the whole reason we're doing this and having that resilience.
Yeah. So again, that's resilient. The next episode we'll be talking about motivation or motivated, what that means, and everything that encompasses that. So, ladies and gents, this is episode 2, season 1, episode 2.
Thanks again to Black Lion for the
Black
sponsorship.
Lion Coffee, baby.
Coffee for what?
All right.
Coffee for
Many
closers.
thanks.
Hey.
Coffees for closers,
Check
guys.
out Black Lion USA.com.
BlackLionUSA.com. Guys, this is Four Horsemen of Sales. Until next time.